Alright, there we go. The soundboard starts. Alright, hello people. We have returned for another live stream. This one is for fuck's sake, right? Well, use them sparingly. Use them for dramatic effect.
Hi,
Don't
it's me again.
don't
You missed
spam
me.
Alright, hope you're all having a lovely Friday night. We brought some drinks and we thought, unlike the last one, which was kind of edgy and serious about like female space marines, we thought this time we would do a tier list of the Gaunt's Ghost novels because they're pretty well known 40k novels and a lot of people like them and I have some thoughts on them. Cross also has some thoughts on them. Will has, I think, no thoughts on them. So
I have no idea what we're on about, but
It's been a long time since I read, like, what am I, like, halfway through the series? I think I finished off, like, a chapter into
my
Straight
opinions
Silver.
would be judged on what I hear throughout this conversation.
Which,
Right.
do I have my notes next to me?
cool.
I actually have, like, a note thing of which 40k books I've read, because I kept track of it. So let's see if I can find Gaunt's Ghosts.
I'm gonna just quickly Google who Gaunt
One,
Ghosts
two,
are.
three.
I'll
Is it
go
the
through it
fifth
very
or sixth
briefly,
book?
so.
Straight Silver.
Oh yeah, I've put this up so you can see the tier
Oh, I'm
list.
watching the video. It's fine.
Alright, you can see on stream as well, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'll just do
Gaunt's
that anyway.
Ghosts.
So.
I
Here
have
we
the
go.
chat open. Hello, Juan.
Alright, so according to Wikipedia, Gaunt's Ghost is a series of military science fiction novels by Dan Bennett. Set in the Warhammer 40k universe. Is it Bennett? Yeah, Bennett.
It's Abner, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's fine.
I bet. Sorry.
Dan Bennett.
Sorry, I pronounced his name incorrectly. It was inspired by Sharp series. Oh, okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, we all know he did that. Cool, fair enough.
Yeah, it's very heavily inspired by Bernard Cornwell's Sharp series, like extremely heavily inspired. So yeah, if you just imagine Sharp and 40k, you're pretty close.
That's
to what it
that's
is.
literally just it.
Yeah.
Oh, you should have just started playing the Sharp music.
Oh yeah, I should have done that, but
40 shillings.
It's
on
different.
the drum for
Over
those
the
who
hills and
volunteered
far
to come.
away.
I really wish someone would make a 40k version of that, like with techno or electro kind of beats in it. That'd be pretty cool.
I
Challenge
started to work
accepted.
on a short version of it, like a snippet of the song
Mhm.
for that novella I was writing. So if I actually do finish it, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say give it the same tune, but just add some cool like
Well, that's exactly what I
electro
did.
shit to it or
It's
something.
a slight rewording of the song to make it 40k theme.
Yeah. Right. So I guess we'll do a bit of background first before we carry on. So, these are actually some of the first Black Library novels because Black Library started out in 1997, and the first Gaunt's Ghost book came out in 1999. So 2 years after they were launched, they came out with this series. And I think this is Dan's first major novels as well that he ever worked on. So as we go through, this will give you some idea on what, Dan was kind of like as an author starting out. Because he did write before, he did lots of comics and stuff. And
Apparently, he's worked for Marvel and
Yep.
DC Comics.
Yep, he's a comic book writer mainly, that's his main thing.
Yeah.
But
And apparently, he also did 2000 AD.
He also did Dark Tide.
Yeah. That is a weird...
And the Ravener series.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's his face? The other Inquisitor.
He's also
Eisenhorn.
done
And,
something called Angry Robot.
And what's the other woman's name? I can't remember her name.
He does a lot of shit for 40k in general because he does a bunch of
Yeah.
heresy novels and short stories as well.
He's a happy fella by the looks of
I'm
it.
not
Apparently
really
he also
sure
did-
how he got involved. That's the main thing because I don't know if there's an interview where he talks about it or if he was just like a fan of 40k and then said, "Hey, can I write for it?" And they were like, "Sure, you're pretty good" or something.
Yeah.
I don't
He
remember
also
how
happy
that
he
did
is.
happened.
Planet of the Apes comic book series.
Oh, did he? Awesome. I'd read that.
Okie doke.
He
Do
writes
we
his own
need
original stuff.
do we need any more
Interesting.
lore, or should we just get into the ratings for the few of these novels and carry on, like fill in more as we go along?
Might as well do it that
Yeah.
way.
Cool.
Do you want us to watch your screen while we're?
You can do, or you can watch the stream, whatever's easier.
I'll look
so-
at
I'll watch your screen.
Okay.
There's a bit of
Okay, so I
There
was
we go.
wondering how you're going to do this. We're just going to rate the books, is it?
So here's the thing. I already have my ratings because I'll give some background. I read half of these books back when I was a teenager, which was like 15 years ago or something stupid like that.
84 years.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was quite that long, but it was like 12 years ago, I think. And I stopped reading at Guns of Tanith. And then last year or the year before, I was like, I should finish reading those Gaunt's Ghost books. So I bought the rest of them and carried on reading with them, and I finished reading the latest one like 2 months ago.
That's
I thought-
pretty funny that you left off where I currently am.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened. I just decided, I'm not really into these at the minute. I'll give them a rest and read them
It's
some
what,
other
like
day. It
what,
took
like 6
a
books?
decade later to finish reading them.
I'm going to try and count because my list was printed out before the newer books came out, so I might be a bit off.
Yeah.
But, so that's book 6. Is Sabbath Martyr a book or a short story?
That's a book.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
There's 15
5,
main novels and
6.
some short stories.
Yeah, so there's about 12 books. Oh, so there's 15. Okay.
Yes, we're going to cover
So-
just the main novels. We might briefly talk about the short stories, but I'm not going to rate them in this
Yeah,
thing.
so basically Straight Silver is about halfway through the series, which is probably why.
Yes.
Yeah, I took a break after 6
Another thing to
books.
bear in mind is all these books are broken up into their own little sort of acts. So you've got like Act 1, which is the founding, Act 2, which is the Saint, Act 3 is the Lost, and then Act 4 is the Victory. And because Act 4 the books now got so long, they were split into the Victory Part 1 and the
2.
Victory
There you
Part
go,
2.
there's a list of all of them.
I've
Yeah.
recently got the... no, I have them in front of me, Will. I just don't know
Ah.
which is a book and which is a short story, because mine are mixed up.
hmm
I recently just got, was it last week, the Victory Part 2.
So what I think we'll do with this is I've got my ratings already written out just so I had the thoughts fresh in my head basically.
Yeah.
We might adjust them during the thing, depending on feedback from some you guys and stuff, but I'm going to mostly keep it consistent with what I think, because at the end of the day, it's my tier list. Also, disclaimer, don't take it too seriously. This is just what I think of these books. You can hate them as much as you like, disregard it. It's all on you. It's all good.
Absolutely, my opinion matters over
Yeah,
all
yeah,
else.
yeah.
You can all get fucked.
Yeah, I'm not going to do the whole Templin Institute thing. My opinion's better than yours. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
We are 100% correct and you're wrong. Dab.
Yeah.
Dab.
Yeah, this is not objective at all. This is just purely
Yeah.
subjective, and it's just for fun, really. I'm having some
And
drinks
take it
while
in
we do
good
this.
humor. Don't be whiny about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I guess we'll get started, and then we'll just elaborate as we go on. So first,
Yeah.
Noni, this is the first book, as by the name.
And it's the only one.
Oh yeah,
done.
disclaimer. We probably won't do talk about the books too much in depth because we might save that for a breakdown. If we
Yeah.
do a book club thing where we maybe read them each fortnight.
Maybe
or
if you
month
give me
or
a reminder of what the book was about.
Yeah,
I can
well, I'll
place
give
it
you a
in my head,
little
but
bit about the books we
yeah.
talk about, but I won't go in depth because we'd be here all
Yeah.
night, and also, it'd be better if we were all more familiar with it to do a full breakdown.
Yeah. So when I take notes on which 40k books I liked, I also take a note of what about the books I liked.
Mm.
But for some reason with this series, I just have the little symbol for this book was good on all of them.
Oh, I like how Glow's just put listed all as trash, bold choice. So that's just a placeholder so I can drag them up. But yeah, no, that is a funny observation. They're all trash. Right, well done, guys. We're done for today. I guess
Yep.
our job's done.
God.
They all suck. Thanks for watching.
Basically.
Alright. let's get into it.
Okay, first and Oni.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about or just put in the tier first?
Maybe give
and
a like a brief synopsis, but don't really spoil
Okay,
anything.
First
Yeah.
and Oni's the first book, and its main job is to not only introduce the regiment and what the setting is and stuff, but also Gaunt himself. I think this is the one book that does the most to set up Gaunt as a character more than most of the others. There are a
Doesn't
few
it
others that
open?
go more in depth with him as a guy, but it's mainly this book that does the most like character building and stuff, establishing
Doesn't
that.
it open with him being young, or is that one of the short
He's a
stories? Then?
cadet with another
Yeah.
regiment, and he's like helping them
Yeah.
load artillery shells and being all
Just
jab
like
and stuff.
Kane, part of an artillery regiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember what happens in that beginning bit because like his commissar mentor's like, "Oh yeah, go in with the infantry and fuck up these rebels," and he's like, "Yeah, boss, I'll do that." And he goes in and they meet some old lady who's like a witch or a psyker, and she's all like, "Oh, you're the chosen one. You need to find your
Is Anakin?
ghosts." Yeah, like she gives him a bunch of
Hello,
chosen one
Gaunt.
bullshit.
Did you know there are 40 shillings on the drum for those who volunteered to come?
Yeah, she should have just opened with that, and he's all
Yeah.
like, "My what?" And then they're all like, "Don't
Um,
listen to her, sir. She's an evil witch. Go away."
I can't remember if it's this book, Stu, or is it a later one where one of the characters actually sings "Over the Hills and Far Away," but they just mention it. They don't actually have the lyrics for the song.
Yeah, they allude to because they have Tanith pipes, which are just bagpipes.
I think the name of the song was "Into the Skis" and
Over the hill.
"Off Away" or something like that.
God.
It's making a Scottish-ism of skies, into the
Yeah.
skies and far away or something like that. And
Sure.
it's about going back to Tanith or something.
Yeah. I don't remember. Here's the thing, my memory is going to be very foggy for the first half of these.
Because of all the alcohol.
Well, that as well, but, we'll work through that. So, trying to remember what else happens in this book. I think it then cuts to the regiment in the middle of the war, and they do some stuff, like the trenches. Oh yeah, all the Tanith, I should say, are a light infantry regiment, and they are Scottish, Irish, Welsh, Celtic warriors, basically doing, guerrilla
like
stuff, kind of.
Yeah, like a recon guerrilla regiment.
Yeah, not quite guerrillas, because guerrillas is more like insurgencies and stuff, but they're like a professional military force that do, light
They're
infantry.
known for their long range reconnaissance type.
And they're
stuff.
like some of the best at it, essentially.
Yeah, and they're particularly known for their silver knives.
Yeah, that's another weird thing. Also, their guns are made of like fancy wood, which is like it's called Nowwood, and it's like from the Scottish planter or Irish planter or wherever they're from.
It's a fancy stock for the lasgun that's made out of like a nice wood.
Also, a little
actually
detail
sounds really nice.
that doesn't get mentioned a lot: they wear grey armor with black fatigues, and they all wear camo cloaks, so they're all pretty stealthy. Okay. So yeah, there's a bit of combat with them. Then I think it cuts back a lot to flashbacks of Gaunt and how he met his regiment. Oh yeah, it cuts on to Gaunt's dad as well. Gaunt's dad is like some kind of officer. Like he's some kind of general or something like that. And he's all like, hey, kiddo, I brought you this back from the war, and oh, fancy souvenir, I love you, Dad. And then Dad tragically dies later on, and it's like, oh no, revenge plot, later on in the movie and stuff. It's all just to build Gaunt's character, basically, his personality. Trying to think what else happens in this book. I think they go to some other world and do some ass kicking, and then they discover that there's like chaos stuff under the ground. There's like men of iron or something from the Dark Age of technology, and they like kick their ass, blow up the thing, and win the day, and then the book kind of ends. And there's also, throughout the book, there's also flashbacks to how he meets the Tanith and how he meets some of the characters. So I guess what I'm saying is this book is trying to do a lot in one book, and I think it does a pretty good job of it. So I'm going to say this is an A tier book. I think with how much room Dan had to put in it, and considering it's one of his first novels, it's really good, actually. Any thoughts, Cross, Will?
Cross knows more than I do about it.
Has Cross disappeared to get his pizza?
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah.
So, yeah, sounds decent storyline to me. However,
Sure.
it sounds like there's an anticlimactic ending.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I like a cliffhanger ending, so it makes me want to read the next book.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these books are quite easy to read, which I like, because some books go a bit long-winded in detail and stuff, and Dan does do that in some of his other books, but these ones are fairly self-contained and fun like that. So, yeah.
Are they actually linked with each other? Are they all separate?
They're all linked to each other because there's characters that carry on from each novel and so forth. So, you know, they're all kind of linked. But
do they come out in the chronological order, or is book 2 set before or after book 1?
They all more or less are chronological, except for the next one, which is a bit weird, which we'll get into. So I don't know how much of that you catch, Cross, but I basically said this is an A tier because it's trying to do a lot of stuff, and I think it does it really well, especially for a first novel from Dan.
It was pretty good, actually, for a first novel.
Yeah. Because, you know, it sets up Gaunt, it sets up the ghosts as a regiment, it sets up the setting, because this is set in the Sabbath World's Crusade, which is a setting he also came up with, I think, mostly. So, a lot of work went into this, and for a first book, especially with limited pages as well, because a lot of these, one thing you'll notice for these early books is they're kind of shorter compared to later books. Because they were kind of wanting them to be condensed and to be more standalone because, you know, Black Library wasn't sure what they were doing or where they'd have the money to do more books and stuff, so...
The idea for the series just came later.
Yeah, they're a lot more serialized, I guess, is the term you would use, these earlier books. More standalone. Right, so that's good. So that's A tier, that's pretty good. Next, we have Ghostmaker, the second book and the first one.
Sounds like a Splinter Cell game.
Ghostmaker is one that I think some fans aren't that fond of, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it's a B tier for me.
Oh, God.
I think it's good, and I'll tell you why. It's decent, I'll tell you why. So, here's the thing. The very first Gaunt's Ghost novel stories were not first and only. They were actually short stories in the Inferno magazine, which was like the first thing Black Library did in the late 90s, which were like magazines they'd publish monthly with like bits of lore and art and stuff from 40k Fantasy and their other works. So that was where Gaunt's Ghosts and those characters were first kind of conceptualized in those short stories rather than the first novel.
So they came out at a time when G-Dubs was cool and allowed people to create fan art.
Yeah, kind of. And
I was just about to say, is Gaunt Ghosts actually canonized in the Warhammer story?
More or less.
Yeah, okay. There's even official models.
Oh, nice, cool. I was just wondering, out of curiosity.
So,
nice.
The thing about this one book is half of it is an actual book, half of it is just repackaging those stories from Inferno.
Nice.
So some people didn't like that because you're basically getting half a book, half of it is stories you might have already heard. For me, because I never read the Inferno book, it was pretty good because what it does is gives you extra context for each of the individual characters because each short story is about a particular guy. So there's one about Bragg, there's one about Larkin, there's one about Ron. I don't know about the others, who there is. My favorite was Larkin because that's the one that may or may not have a Imperial demon because there's an Imperial angel in that story, which is pretty cool.
Oh, damn.
I don't know if you'll remember that one, Cross.
No, I don't.
Okay,
actually.
that's the one where Larkin is like, I have to compensate for the wind direction with my laser weapon.
Oh yes, I do remember. That's my favorite scene because it's like overly detailed for no reason.
Yeah,
it's just Dan Abnett showing off that he actually went and learned how you shoot a rifle.
Yeah, so this
kind
is
of bragging.
So this is a weird thing about Dan. Dan, puts in a lot of work to do research and stuff, but he does sometimes get it wrong or exaggerates things or changes things around, which can be weird. But in this particular case, the weirdest thing is he's talking about all this like cool, edgy sniper stuff, but then it's like it's a laser weapon. It doesn't care about the wind, so I don't know why he's obsessing.
Yeah, it
over
was just
it.
showing off for the people who know how to shoot.
Yeah, it just felt weird, and it sparked a lot of like fan discussion of do las guns even have recoil and wind and all that, direction, all that stuff affect them. So yeah, that was fun to go through that when I first read it. But yeah, other than that, not much happens in this book. It kind of there's some bit where they like do this thing and then they run into Eldar and like they're all hidden and with cloaking technology. Oh yeah, Larkin's the only one that can see them because he trusts anything he can see through his scope.
Oh.
So when Larkin looks through his scope, he can see the Eldar past all their cloaking bullshit. And I guess the theory is that because the warp makes things you believe in real, because Larkin believes the scope shows him the truth, it does, I guess.
Yeah, isn't there like some kind of fan theory that he's like a warp-touched person or like some sort of Imperial Saint or something?
there is that, but there's never really been a whole lot of evidence for it. It's just kind of a thing people have come up with.
Except for the spooky statue that talked to him that one time.
Well, that's the thing, well, that's another thing, because people have also theorized he's maybe a blank, because no one he's
that's the word I was looking for.
Outcast.
Blank, yeah.
Which kind of would make sense, because then that would actually let him see through all the psychic cloaking shit of the Eldar, but it also would mean that the angel lady wouldn't have been able to approach him and help him, I don't think, so... Yeah, I don't know. That's a bit of a weird one that I need to think about more.
Well, the Imperial Saints are technically lesser demons, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I'd call them greater demons, honestly, I'd say.
Greater demons?
Okay. I would consider them greater demons. I'd say the angel lady is kind of more like a lesser demon that he talks to. But they just haven't... Games Workshop hasn't really done anything with that idea in the lore much, other than here and maybe one or two other places, so...
Yep.
Lasgun should have recoil if a projectile has any mass or energy behind it. Yeah, I think that works. It's more just would the wind affect laser beam is what's, I think, kind of people were kind of hung up on in that scene. So, but yeah,
that was your take on it.
So what?
What's your take, Will, on laser beams?
On laser beams?
Yeah.
What? Wow, is this laser beams to kill coming from a gun, or
yeah?
Is it right? Yeah, seems practical to me.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that for another time.
I don't know. I don't know much about this scenario, so I don't know.
Cool. Okay.
I don't know what. When you were talking about a blank, I don't know what a blank is. So
yeah, that's fair enough. Don't worry about it. Right. Next one, Necropolis. I'll tell you what, Cross. Tell me what you remember of Necropolis.
That's the third book. So the third book, is that the one where they go to Verminhive?
Yes.
That's actually one of my favorite ones.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of people's favorite book. So yeah.
What was that?
That says a lot of people's favorite books.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You have a message about lasguns in the comments.
I read it. Yeah.
We read it.
Okay.
My favorite line is the introduction for what's the girl's name?
Where
they introduce her as a hive slut. But technically he's using English correct, but because the use of the term slut has changed.
Yeah.
Since the 80s or the early 90s, at least when the book came out, it means something completely different when I read it the first time. I was like, hang on, why did you call her that? Like, why did you randomly just call this new character a whore for no reason? And I reread it, and I'm like, okay, they mean she's lower class. Yeah. Fair enough.
I need to reread that because that sounds kind of hilarious. Like,
it is kind of funny. I had to reread the sentence like 3 times before I realized what he meant.
Yeah.
Maybe miswrote and he meant horse.
Glow says my favorite book was the one with the Red Angels, where one Red Angel took off his helmet and said, "It's morbin time." Then the Red Angels morbed all over the place.
Oh my god.
Oh god, I
Yeah,
should get
sounds
that as
about
a
right.
soundboard meme. Actually, it's more fun. Okay, so I'll go through why I like some of the stuff in this book. So yeah, Vervenhive gets introduced. It's probably the first major battle in the novel series, and it's quite an important moment for the whole series in general because it introduces a bunch of new characters. You know, you learn more about the enemy they're fighting, which is like the Blood Pact and a bunch of their other allies and stuff.
Gaunt hooks up with some random
Gaunt
lady.
bangs
It's
like
like
the noble
it's
daughter.
it's very like sharp as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and she gives him her dad's like epic sword or whatever, which is
Oh,
actually a
jeez.
really cool present to get from
That's
me.
what happens in Sharp. Sharp's
That's what I
officer
mean.
gives him his saber.
It's literally just ripped off from Sharp. It's pretty
Jeez.
funny.
Yeah.
Well,
They meet all the Vervenhive like militia companies, and they're kind of cool. What's his name? Gol is pretty cool because he's like a big beefy miner guy, and he just like smashes people with his hands. Like that's pretty fun. I'm trying to think if anyone here like dies
Is
or anything.
McCall
'Cause I haven't
the
really
guy-
mentioned the characters much because one problem with Gaunt, well,
McCall-
it's not really a problem. It's a thing that comes up that can be an issue. There's so many fucking characters in these novels to get introduced or killed off. It's kind of like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well,
So-
there's a lot.
It's really hard to keep track of them, especially just like random soldier here called Korf or some shit, and it's like, oh, Korf was feeling sad that day, and it's like I don't remember who this guy was.
Which
was
is
he last seen a horse?
the guy that ends up in a relationship with one of the new women that joined the
Yeah,
regiment.
Catherine. Yeah, Catherine's kind of
He got the
forgettable
child.
as well because his only defining feature is he's really good
Yeah.
with the rocket launcher. Like that's it.
That's
He's
not a
always-
feature.
That's his trait though,
Really?
because all these books were
Ah,
serialized,
he's
they didn't
Ukrainian.
know. So, because these books were serialized and they didn't know, if there were going to be more of them, Dan recaps all the characters, and what he tends to do is in each novel and tends to give them an exaggerated trait, basically to make them stand out. So it's like
At the
he's the
moment, it
rocket
literally-
guy, this guy's the demolitions guy, this guy's the sniper, and all that stuff. So
It literally just sounds like the writers just literally just watched an episode of Sharp and just literally just copy and pasted it.
Glow says bang women get stuff sounds good. Yep, 100%.
Pretty much.
We need the lore Bible or glossary on hand to read the series notes. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, just look at the wiki occasionally is what I would kind of do.
Yeah.
So when's the Hollywood adaptation coming out?
Don't
This would be
joke
good
about
as a TV show, I think.
When
Fucking
I
lot
first
of money, though.
read this, when I first tried to read Gaunt's Ghost, I had to stop like a paragraph in because I didn't understand any of the some of the terms.
Mhm.
I'm responding to Glow in the Dark there in the comments because he's asked about do you need to know about the lore?
Mm.
You need to know a little bit. The Caiaphas Cain series is a good place to start. This is a place to go after that. This is a really good series, but you need some basic understanding of how the 40k stuff works.
Yeah,
Just
just at the
because
very
it's a-
least, so that which
Yeah.
organizations which and so forth.
Chaos
Yeah.
good.
Chaos is good. Yeah.
Yep.
Adam is pretty good at writing. He's good, but he's not great with explaining what he's talking about.
He does the Tolkien thing where he goes on and on and on about
no.
the fucking
The
appearance of this
smoking weed.
planet, and it's like, what does this have to do with anything? Then, like,
Yeah, Sandy Mitchell is much better as an introduction for 40k, but this is certainly a place to go after that.
yeah,
But Hobbit smoking pipe weed is important.
yes, it is indeed.
Oh, rattling, smoking pipe weed, you mean? Because we're talking
Yeah.
about 40k, Will.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
The Hobbits, yes. So we're gonna give this book, unless you guys have any more thoughts.
I
on
want
it.
to give that the top one.
Oh, S tier.
Best
Oh,
book.
jeez.
I'm gonna
best
give this
book.
S tier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit cliche, I know, because everyone loves this book, but it's
Yeah.
really good. It has really good action.
Mhm.
Introduces a lot of cool stuff with new characters, new stuff with the
Yeah.
enemy. It also has
Has females in it, so that's immediate S too.
Another thing great about this, it introduces other guard regiments that get their own lore in other books or other publications. So
Yeah, don't they have the
Volponies are in this one?
blue boys got their
and they describe them as wearing carapace armor and like carrying high-powered hell guns and shit. I'm like, these guys are badass, you know. When I was reading
First
that,
and Only had a regiment of like edgy boys in chainmail. They
That's
used
cool.
it to stop a train, didn't they? They threw it on the line so that it would melt into the thing as the train went over it to stop the train.
I think this is also the book that introduces the Australian regiments, so the Diggers, or whatever the fuck they're called.
Riding kangaroos.
Yeah. They're like a tunneler regiment.
Isn't that the regiment that a lot of people are doing like fan art of?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love
they
that
all just wear
regiment.
boonie hats and they all have like mining gear and explosives and
Rocky.
stuff. Like, Rocky, go get a foster stab you. I wish there was a bit more of them in these books, but sadly there's not much.
You know what? You can write your own little novella.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did get sued because you got the content of my Games Workshop.
Okay, so that's the end of the Founding trilogy.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good one,
Falls.
honestly, especially for a first trilogy or act of books.
They're all in the isn't it the Founding omnibus book?
Yeah, these all have omnibuses now. I have the early omnibus, which has a different cover, but there is like a newer one that looks a bit different.
Oh, there's an even newer one now again.
Yeah.
I have the middle one.
But do you have it in hardback or
soft?
It is a
paperback
thing.
Oh yeah, paper.
It'd be kind of difficult to make a hardback of like an omnibus.
Yeah, the Founding omnibus has a ghost return, first and only, of their lives and ruins of their cities, Ghostmaker, Necropolis, and In Remembrance. So there's like a couple of short stories.
The cool thing about the newer omnibuses is he bundles in some short stories. Some of them new, some of them are just old ones. They were standalone originally.
I can't remember. Are they in order?
Most of them are, yeah. Actually,
because I really like that. It's one of the things about the Kane omnibuses I wasn't too fond of. Is some of the Kane omnibuses are a bit all over the place.
Well, Kane's books in general are kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Who's Kane?
It's Mr. Safest Kane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But like the books are good, but the arrangement of the books in the omnibuses is a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean that series in general just jumps all over the place time-wise as well, so it is what it is. So.
Which is the next one? Is it Honor Guard?
Yeah, we're getting into the new acts now. Honor Guard.
Shit, the Saint.
I'm giving this a C.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you didn't like it?
I don't remember much of it. I'll give you the plot rundown that I remember. They go to a planet. They fight some boys. They introduce some new characters because there's a bunch of Irvinhivers now, which I just imagine. So here's the thing. When I read these books, I imagine Tanith either sound Scottish, Welsh, or Irish. That's the accent. Gaunt, English, Yorkshire, whatever. Irvinhivers, I just imagine they're fucking, like English fucking city dwellers.
They're from London.
Yes, London, Birmingham, Manchester, that kind of thing.
He's a Cockney.
They're all city geezers, right? Well, fuck you up,
They're from the Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Look out.
Glow says it's not a bad place to start, but the true chest is if I can pass the first few volumes or season. Yeah, definitely. Like, that's the most important thing with the story, is to actually get you hooked in, because if you're not interested after the first few chapters, then fuck it.
My biggest criticism, actually, of Dan Abnett's books, in particular this series, is it is literally a wall of text. And it is kind of hard to get through, which is why I kind of only got 6 books and then had to stop.
Yeah, like I said, he has the Tolkien thing where he describes things for a lot of time, and it can get a bit old sometimes. Sometimes it's really cool though, like his descriptions. So
the Kane series is a lot easier on the eyes. It's much easier to take in.
Yeah, I would say these ones aren't too bad as a whole compared to some other 40k books. Like other ones are even worse for the detailed stuff. So yeah, Honor Guard. They go to a planet. They kill some Chaos Boys. They get told by the general, you need to go to the tomb of Saint Sabbat because like Joan of Arc is like, okay,
Joan
sorry.
of Arc?
Yeah, not literally Joan
Saint
of
Sabbat.
Arc, but the saint
Oh.
that's in this sector of space, this of the Sabbat worlds, is
She's a
basically a Joan of
shepherd
Arc
who,
stand-in. Like,
She's a shepherd who became a saint, basically.
Oh, okay.
yeah, she's a peasant girl, became Chad, and died.
I know who
in
Joan of
war.
Arc is. I was confused why she was in Warhammer.
Yeah, well, she's not literally, but she's stand-in for basically a copy of her,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. But hey,
I actually like that book. The other commissar is pretty funny.
oh, Hark's great. He's
The guy with
one
the
of the
power
best
fist.
characters because
Yeah.
he's kind of like Gaunt, but he's a lot more hard ass. Basically, he's
Yeah.
just like, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of these guys. You better not smoke on my watch. Or I'll fucking. Because a lot of the time he doesn't threaten to shoot you. He's just like, I'll beat the fuck out of you, and he's like this Giga Chad muscle man. Like that's the way he's described. It's just like, oh shit, okay. So that's fun. I forgot to mention, in Necropolis, Gaunt shoots an officer, and that's one of the very few times he executes someone. Yeah. The only other time he executes someone, I think, is in Straight Silver. And we'll get to that later.
Oh no, spoilers!
Yeah. He just shoots a couple of medics, that's all I'll say.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
ruined it.
There's a good reason
He's shooting
for
his
it.
own medics. That's something.
It's not his
Bad
medics,
idea.
it's from another
I don't really
regiment.
need surgery.
Oh, another one.
He shoots some people from another regiment. It's quite
Well,
quite a
that's really
scene,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Honor Guard, the general tells them, go secure the bones, the tomb of the Saint Sabbat. They go there, and they're all complaining, like, oh, this is a suicide mission, some kind of suicide squad, huh? And all that. They go there, Hark is all like, you gotta follow your orders there, Mr. Commissar, because, you're in
Soldiers follow
charge.
orders.
You're a commissar, which is stupid, so I'm the commissar now. Basically, that's why Hark's there, is because he takes over as the commissar. Because technically Gaunt's not supposed to be a commander and a commissar at
He's
the
a
same
colonel,
time.
yeah.
But the old war master gave him that rank because he really liked him for some reason. So yeah,
Seduced him.
yeah. Well, they had gay sex or something.
Moving on.
Right.
I'm just throwing out ideas.
Just throwing out ideas. Alright, so they go there, they fight the chaos and successfully defend the bones of the Saint. There's some girl there who's like, oh, I'm actually the Saint reincarnated or something, and they're all like, no, that's bullshit, and they're like, no, it's real. Like, they decide later on it's
Okay,
real.
I'll prove it. I'll perform a
Good job,
miracle.
guys.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Did I mention Milo?
Yeah, you didn't.
Okay, Milo is
Milo's good character.
Milo is one of the. He's like the youngest Tanith there. They call him Boy, and
He's a child, yeah.
he's the adjutant for Gaunt, basically. His assistant, whatever.
Okay.
And he basically
tech
does
boy.
Gaunt's laundry for him and helps him with his paperwork and plays the pipes because he's like the musician for the regiment as
Yeah.
well. And he's like
He was
slowly
a
going
child,
through training.
and then he kind of
Yeah.
grows up over time.
He kind of gets infatuated with the girl who's like Saint Sabbat and decides, hey, Gaunt, I'm going to leave the regiment and become her simp. And he's like,
Fluctuating.
okay, that's cool. And they buy.
It's up to her OnlyFans.
yeah. Let's see what Glowy says here.
I didn't realize it was Bao Delphine.
Depends on your
Yep.
mood. Would say I'm in the mood for a detailed description, but if it's half the book, it kind of gets old. If that happens, it's better to read a few new chapters and take a break. Yeah, like it becomes harder to read a novel when it becomes that detailed, and you have to like, oh god, it's a
Can
lot
you
of
get these on
information
Audible?
to process. I listen to more Audible, but the problem is, Will, sometimes I'll listen to an Audible and then I'll stop listening to it when it goes rambly into details.
Okay.
It's the same problem, really, you get. Because your brain
Fair
just
enough.
doesn't retain it as well either way.
Yeah.
I see Glow in the Dark is memeing there.
And then Glow says, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Don't say that
War
name.
Master Yiannopoulos, yes.
He might get you in trouble.
Yeah, we'll leave that for now. Okay, so yeah, this one gets a C for me. Like, I didn't hate it, I just don't remember it very well, and it didn't stick out to me, and it's just kind of a by-the-numbers book. Introduces some new things, which is cool, but overall it's kind of Did you like this one, Cross? You said you thought this one was alright.
Honor Guard? Yeah, I kind of did actually.
Would you? I guess you would give it a B then in your
A B,
personal
yeah.
scale. What you could do actually, Cross, is write down what you'd give them, and then you can make your own tier list. That'd be fun.
I could, but I'm not.
Yeah. At least make a note of where you'd put them yourself. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now we go on to book 2 of this art. The Guns of Tanith.
And then to the left.
I'm very indecisive about this one. It's either a B or an A. I quite like this one, because they're on a different environment, which is like these cities that are floating up in the sky because, you know Cloud City from Star Wars?
Yes, we all know.
Loads of cloud cities are all across this planet. They've got to be taken and held because...
So it's a gas planet, basically.
Yes, it is a gas planet, funnily enough. So the atmosphere is very toxic unless you're high up.
Like the people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Palatine don't have a guard regiment. They have the Palatine Air Corps.
Air Corps.
So they're all like weird RAF pilots. That's kind of the vibe that Dan kind of ripped off for these guys. You know, they're all
Are they like the Top Gun guys?
Yeah, they're all fire pilots, and they also, I think, have like drop infantry as well, because they do a lot of flying around in choppers and shit.
So any paratroopers?
Yeah, kind of.
Nice.
The Harikoni Warhawks.
Similar to those guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite as elite as them, I don't think, but they're a similar vibe.
The Dam Busters.
So they need help taking their planet back from Chaos Boys. And the whole book is basically just them trying to take this major city in the skies.
Takes my whole book just to take one place.
Yeah, it's pretty well defended, and it's a different type of warfare because the ghosts can't really use their stealth as well because it's all like urban and in the sky and stuff. So they gotta fight a bit differently. I don't remember much from this book either, but I do remember that they do a drop behind enemy lines with McCall and some of his scouts. Also, McCall is the most OP guy in the whole series. He is just fucking Rambo for the regiment. It's hilarious. Shall I get into one of the most contentious scenes in the entire series, but also one of my favorites because I think it's great.
I don't know what you're talking about. So go on.
At the end of this book, McCall blows up a Chaos Lord and his 2 fucking bodyguards with a C4 charge.
That sounds based.
It's based as hell. It's just Call of Duty. He just throws a block of
did he manage
C4 and
that?
runs out of the room, throws the trigger.
Okay.
He jumps in
Tell
after
Bryce,
this stealth
what are you
mission.
doing?
After the squad's done their objective, he's like, I'm going to assassinate this Chad Chaos Marine. I think he's a Chaos Marine. I'm not 100% sure. It's funnier if he is a Chaos Marine, though. He jumps in, kills the 2 officers that are normal humans with his lasgun. And then the Chaos Lord looks at him and laughs and goes, ha ha ha, my alien reptile bodyguards are immune to lasguns because they have reptilian skin that absorbs energy fire. And I'm in power armor. You can't kill me, puny man. And then McCall's like, oh, this is just some insurance, man. The real shite's under this desk. And they just dashes out of the room. The Chaos Lord's really bemused and looks under the desk. And there's just loads and loads of C4 charges marked up to and detonates her, and he goes, no! And then it booms, and the room blows up and kills them.
You know what, in fairness, that's pretty funny.
It's really funny, but a lot of people hate that scene because they're like, oh my god, it's bullshit, he kills the Chaos Lord with C4. And I'm like, it's funny.
It's supposed to be fun.
It's gonna be fun. It's like an 80s action movie thing.
Yeah.
It basically is, because it's basically kind of following on from Sharp.
Sounds like an episode
But what's
of
even
CIS.
more hilarious is afterwards he runs out of the room and, the whole building explodes or something, and they're all like, sir, McCall must be dead, he's missing in action, we can't find any trace of him. And then they're like, oh, we'll need to give him a medal and all this stuff. And then 5 minutes later, sir, we found him in the rubble, he's alive! So McCall survived the big explosion of the building and killing the Chaos Lord, so there you go, he's just like the Giga Chad of the regiment.
Fair enough. Does he do what Captain Price does and just pulls out a cigar and starts smoking it?
Yeah, basically, that's what he does.
Yeah.
So I would give this either a B or an A. I'm leaning towards A just for that scene alone, honestly.
Yeah.
I remember. C4 for the win, yep. Right. Oh yeah, there is a major character death in this that I won't spoil.
Oh,
but
no.
This is when the Game of Thrones
It was
syndrome...
God. He died right at the beginning.
Oh no. This is where the Game of Thrones...
That's when the book series ends.
Yeah.
This is where Game of Thrones syndrome sets in and, like, big characters just start dying randomly and you're like, oh no. And that happens.
Oh no, George R. Martin got to Gaunt's ghost.
Yeah,
It is
basically.
supposed to be Grimdar, so.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, Stu, if you keep all the main characters alive throughout the whole entire series,
Yeah,
there's no, like,
it would be stupid, if they all just survived.
like there's no suspense, because, like, surely
There'd be
you'd,
no
like, want the
stakes. Yeah,
suspense.
no, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, if people just survived all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Fucking hell. Straight Silver. This is the one that
I've only got
you
a
stopped
chapter.
reading at, isn't it, Cross?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
God,
try not
why?
to
Was it-
spoil it.
Was
They
it
did,
that
like,
bad?
some-
I
they
give
did
it
some,
an
like,
E.
edgy paragraph.
This
or
is the
something,
worst
that was-
Scott's Ghost novel.
Why?
Oh, is it?
Yes, it's the worst one in my opinion.
Care to explain why?
All I remember is they're doing like some edgy paragraph and someone like fucked up and like.
Okay, that was
Oh,
Guns of
fuck out.
Tanith.
Oh, is that the other one?
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
okay.
the other one. This one is World War One in space, but it's like shitty, cliche
Yeah.
World War One. That's like
Okay.
so. This is a pet
drop
peeve of
into
mine, so I
defense
think
troops.
most people aren't gonna really care about this. But Dan does this thing where he takes inspiration from real history, which is cool and all. But this one is based on like meme history of World War One from like the 60s and not actual. Because here's the thing with World War One. I'll just do a quick diatribe here about it. World War One, after it happened, it was all tragic and all that stuff, obviously. After it happened and all the way up until like I think the 40s and 50s, kind of, people had the general consensus that it was fucked up, it was wrong, let's leave it at that, let's move on. After
So a
the
man called
60s,
Hitler came.
after the 60s and after World War II, you got a bunch of shitty historians like, not even proper historians. There was a particular guy called Alan Clark who wrote a specific book that was pretty shit. And they basically blamed World War One on classism and started saying that it was all, I don't want to get too political, but it was kind of, let's just say the pendulum was swinging towards the left side of things a little bit because, it was the height of the Cold War. People were looking for ideological conflicts. So some people in Britain and other parts of the world were like, oh, it was all those people in charge that, fucked up everything on World War One, and then they started exaggerating elements of the conflict and stuff like that, and just basically just telling really poor history that wasn't actually backed up by decent facts and stuff. And it took us till I think the 80s or the early mid 2000s before other historians came along and started saying, no, a lot of this is actually bullshit and exaggerations. This is really what happened, with World War One and some of the causes of it and some of the tragedies and all this shit.
It was all made up. It's conspiracy theory. Never happened.
So yeah, like history,
There was no war.
evolves obviously. Like people look into it through different lenses and stuff. And unfortunately, Dan kind of falls into the middle camp of he looks at all the memes of World War One and doesn't actually portray a fairly accurate.
Well, he's trying to sell you a product.
Yeah. That's the
So,
thing. I don't necessarily
makes
blame him for it because he probably did a fairly cursory glance and was like, "Oh, okay, these are some elements of World War One.
You Wikipedia checked it.
I'll just hype them up, to make it grimdark, and there you go."
At the time he's writing this, Wikipedia isn't really a thing yet.
There's
Yeah, that's the thing. He has to get his information from sources.
From
Went to the library. Oh, geez.
And probably like the books from the 60s that he had on the shelf.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah, because he probably had the donkeys
Oh
on
yeah,
his shelf.
imagine actually buying books.
Yep.
Jeez.
Oh yeah, I should mention, all of these books so far have come out 1 year after each other, which is quite
Takes
interesting.
me a year to write one book. That's
It's
pretty good.
consistent.
Yes,
pretty
pretty
good.
good. That changes in a bit though, like it towards
Oh
the end.
no.
Yeah.
To do a George Martin, leave it 10 years.
Yes, he kind of does.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
after this story, apparently it was really shit. So I don't blame him.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, straight silver. All that aside, all the weird World War One inaccuracies aside, exaggerations as well. Say, nothing really happens in the book. They just fight some guys on the planet, and then the book ends. Like, there's a little bit of foreshadowing towards what happens in the next book, and there's some decent character stuff with some of the characters, which is nice. Like the bit where I said Gaunt shoots some guys. There's some wholesome moments in the hospital for On and one of the sniper ladies that then they're banging. So like that's cute. There's a bit where there's a really cool bit
There's
where
a cute sex scene in a
there is not a
covered in
sex scene, no,
hospital.
I'm afraid.
This is where Stu went to porn.
No. There's like almost no sex in any of these books except for I think the third one where he bangs the daughter, and even then they don't really describe it.
He
so.
banged his daughter.
It's more of a sharp style
Yeah.
thing, where they do it 80s style, where they fades to black.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Which is probably the
Yeah.
best way of doing it, honestly, in most cases.
That's how I handle it in all my games. And stuff
Yeah.
as well.
Anyway, there is so one thing that happens in this book is half of the regiment goes to the trenches, half of them go do recon stuff like they're used to.
You should never
because
split your squad up.
Gaunt kicks up a fuss with all the commanders and yells at them until they let him do his thing. One thing that's really stupid in this book, actually, about the whole World War One thing, they arrive on this planet to help the government out with fighting the rebels, or
Yeah.
like the other side, but they're like, backed secretly by Chaos people. For some reason, the Guard are like, all these Guard regiments are now under the command of the planet's people and officers, which makes no fucking sense at all and is stupid. Like, if the Imperium showed up with their own military, they would still have their own commanders and be doing their own thing and calling the shots. They wouldn't just
It's
hand
probably
them
just
over.
a minor misunderstanding, or Dan just didn't know.
I think Dan just did it because he wanted there to be like drama and conflict between the commanders of the planet and the Guard, but he did it in a kind of a silly way. Like, I don't know. I would have done it a bit
He was
differently.
a heretic. End of story.
Yeah, I kind of would have done it differently, but that's just my personal take on it. So, anyway, there's some nice character moments with like Larkin and one of the ladies, because she's like trying to be. I think she's a sniper, but she wants to be a scout or something. And she's complaining that McVenner, who's the other top scout next to McCall, won't do training with her, and he's like, is he a sexist and all that stuff,
Oh God.
and all that shit.
Wokeism.
And it's really funny because they have her, who she's a Vervenhiver, because all the women are like,
When did this book come
Vervenhivers.
out?
This one came out
2020.
no 2002.
2002. Okay, I'm not surprised that the feminism is starting to slip into the novels then.
Well, no, it's actually done really well in this, because what happens is, she says, like, is he a big sexist? And I said, the Vervenhivers, all the women are Vervenhivers at this point.
They're very independent as well.
Yeah, well, as I said, she's in scout school. Yeah. They have another guy called Jago who's in scout school. And those two go along to apprentice under McVenner to see if they're good enough to be scouts and get some training. And they do all their stuff in the doing recon in the woods. And Larkin, like, she complains to Larkin because, whatever. He listens, and because he's a sniper as well. And he's like, oh no, he's not sexist. Oh no, it's not Larkin. She approaches McVenner himself and says, hey, sir, are you a big sexist? Is that why you don't like me? And he's just like, no. Actually, okay, I don't remember if it's him that says it or Larkin says it, so whatever.
Someone says it. Okay.
Yeah, one of them says it. And he basically says, no, he's not a big sexist. He knows that you're good and that Jago needs more training. That's why he's always taking Jago with him on runs. And you're like, oh... So the whole thing was she was worrying over nothing, which I think is really funny.
She was overthinking.
Yes, it's such a good way of handling.
Nothing was happening at all. It was just she was overthinking and
Typical woman thing to do.
I'm not going to respond to that. Cancel Will on Twitter.
Bro.
I don't have
Glow.
Twitter. Well, actually, I do have Twitter, but yeah.
That's probably a good thing, honestly, at this point.
Fucking cancel him, get him.
Do it if you want, I don't care.
Glow says, from what you said, it would have been better if the planet didn't cooperate unless they followed what they wanted. Yeah, like if they'd kicked up a bit of a fuss or refused to like give supplies or some shit like that, you know. Unless they were allowed to call the shots, like just been a bit more rebellious. Some people on Reddit that talked about this book said maybe it should have been a case where they had connections with the High Lords of Terror or some bullshit, you know, like, so they had a lot of influence, and that was why they got command of the theatre and stuff.
Let Slanesh get involved.
Glow said, worrying about sex and fornication only happen on Paradise Planet. Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty much.
That's true. Only Slanesh cults do that.
So yeah, some stuff happens in this book that's alright, like some good combat scenes, but overall it's not a good book. It's just there's a lot of dumb shit that happens in it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Is Sabbath Martyr a book or is that a short
Yes,
story?
it is a book.
Okay. My
This-
list, unfortunately,
It's a
has
memoir.
all the
Okay.
things on it, so I have to try and figure out which is which.
We're ready to move on to Sabbath Martyr. Now, I'm going to give this one the D.
Oh, I heard this one was good. So what's wrong with it?
It's better. The problem is pacing. It has really bad
Oh, it's all
pacing
over the place?
issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way too much stuff happens in this book, and it all has to be crammed into like 200 pages or whatever the limit was.
Oh.
So there's some really cool stuff in the book, but it's extremely rushed. It's like the most rushed book I've ever in this whole trilogy. It's like
If it was on a time crunch.
it's like, oh, they arrive on the planet to defend it, you know, from the Chaos Spies. It's like a shrine world, you know, where the Sabbat, Saint Sabbat, Joan of Arc is there.
Is it a different one from the previous?
It's a different planet,
story?
yeah.
So how come she has two remains?
Well, she's alive now, and in the girl that they met in the other book.
Oh, so she's supposedly back, and now she's somewhere else.
Yeah, she travels to this
Teleported.
planet because this is like her holy cathedral planet or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I forgot.
she's a
Milo leaves
crusader.
Milo leaves in this book and not in the other one. This is the one
Oh,
where
he
becomes
runs
an
off to
OnlyFans
be
sub.
with the simp to her OnlyFans.
Yes. So yeah, they arrive on this planet to defend it from the hordes of chaos that are coming to ravage the cathedral or whatever, because that's what they do.
Rapid shit, yeah.
First thing that's stupid that happens, they get told they're not allowed to use their flamers on the planet.
Why?
Because only officers are allowed to use holy flamers. And I'm like, that's a stupid rule. They should tell them to get fucked. Like, why are you listening to these guys that run the planet? You're the Imperial
It's
Guard.
the Sororitas banned from this planet straight away.
Yeah, I was going to say, you gonna tell Sororitas they're not allowed flamers? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Bit of random rule, to be fair.
Glow says pacing can mess up the flow. But yeah, pacing is super important, honestly, when you're reading a book. Like, it matters a lot more than it would seem at first.
Yeah, I feel like this should have been 2 books from the sounds of it.
Yeah, this is something that should have been given more material to breathe, but
Yeah.
this is what makes it D for me. It's just
Could
that
be a
main
Netflix
issue.
TV show.
Like, most of the book is not too bad. It's just that issue combined with some dumb stuff where they're trying to protect this hive city from falling. That's the main. It's kind of like Necropolis in that way. You know, it's just defend the city at all costs, prevent the saint from dying. They send 9 assassins after the saint who are just like chaos boys.
Why 9?
Yeah, because Zinch.
Lucky number.
The coolest one is a blood pack, a sniper.
Oh, is this what this meme is about that I found?
says
I don't want to
Nazgul
say it
after him.
because it might be a spoiler, but
9
seen
is
this
the number
meme a
of
second
Zinch,
ago.
yeah.
I seen this meme a second ago, and I was like, or this picture, and I was like, what's this about?
Mm-hmm.
Is that from this book?
Okay, that is...
Did he steal the 9 Nazgul?
I think that's a non-canon piece of art, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll get into that later, because that's a really weird thing. I need more time
Well,
to
that's probably a
talk about.
stylized version of something that happened, but I was just wondering if it was from that.
Right, so... They said 9 assassins. The coolest one is the blood pack sniper dude. Then they send a psyker and his 2, like, children psychers for some reason.
That's weird.
Who's like some weird mutant guy they introduced in Honor Guard that I completely forgot about. So when he showed up, I was like, who the fuck's this guy? And he acted like he was a big deal.
It's always an Eddie story.
There's a Dark Eldar Mandrake who shows up for some reason. I don't know why. He just shows up to help them kill the Saint.
Because we needed
A
a cool cameo.
Chaos, either Demon Engine or Dreadnought, I'm not sure which. And 3 of those alien lizard people that can soak up Lasfire. They all get killed in like the last 10 pages of the fucking book or something stupid.
Rip.
Yeah. So it's like, it's super rushed. It's like, oh, this is cool. You know, you got the 9 killers, the 9 Ronin that are sent to kill the guy or whatever. It's kind of all edgy and cool the way. Because they all get a little paragraph to introduce them as they arrive. I'm like, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But they all die in like the last, quarter of the book really quickly, and it's just like, yeah, you can tell Dan is like, fuck, I'm running out of pages. I need to quickly kill off all these people.
Yeah.
So yeah, beyond that, the book just kind of fucking ends like with a major character death, and you're like, huh, okay. Also, another character gets dragged off somewhere, and it's like, huh, okay.
Oh no, they're gonna poke him.
So there's a lot of tragedy at the end of this book.
Also,
Also-
Celestials are gonna get him.
Also, the book kind of does this whole thing where Chaos are going to win and crush them all. But they get saved by a Deus Ex Machina at the end, and that kind of was like, it makes sense, but it's also really stupid, like the way it kind of happens. So, yeah, this is why this book's a D for me. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's not good. So, right, that's the end of the second act. I'm gonna take a break because my throat's itching. So talk to the chat, I guess, for 5 minutes, and I'll be back.
All right. Have you seen the Sharp series, Will?
I have seen Sharp, yes. I love Sharp.
Yeah. This Gaunt's Ghost is based off it. Yeah.
Yes, it is a good series.
Yeah.
I like Higgswell, who can't die.
Oh God. Oh, what's the guy's name who everyone hates from that?
Depends which one you mean. It was like multiple characters.
The sergeant.
Oh yeah, I think it's Higgswell.
That is Higgswell. Okay.
Oh no, it might be someone else. Hang on, let me check. I'll Google it now.
I forget his name.
Sharp rivals.
Hello, Glow in the Dark. Have you read many of the 40k books?
No, I have not.
No, I'm asking the
no
the audience.
Obadiah.
Obadiah.
Yeah.
I think it's Obadiah Higgswell, is it?
Yeah.
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 Did you listen to that Gotrek and Felix book I sent you?
Not yet. No.
The audiobook? No.
It's on my list of things to listen to.
Okay, I return with some water.
Welcome back.
We shall carry on. Right.
Glow in the Dark. You can acquire the books online on the high seas. I didn't recommend that. Why are you saying that, Stu?
Oh my god.
Thieves.
Yeah.
Let's see. No input. Yeah. Audible or high seas. One of those will work.
Yeah.
Really for you. They're fairly affordable ways of doing it. Depends if you like audiobook as well, because some people don't like audiobooks. I quite like them, but it depends who's reading it as well. So
when I first found the Gaunt's Ghost, what was it? The first and only book. They had it on YouTube, like someone reading the audiobook. but it's since been removed because G-dubs and their
Yeah, they don't like
worrying.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in the next act, which is called The Lost. Traitor General. Traitor General gets the S tier.
Oh, is that one good?
That one's really good.
What's good about it?
Well, put it this way, it's a very simple story, which I like about it. It is... You know the Dirty Dozen movie or story or whatever?
I'm aware of it, but I've never watched it.
I've never watched it either, but it's basically that, from what I can tell. It is send 12 of your best elite guys on a mission to assassinate someone. That's it.
Oh, so they're just a kill team?
They're just a kill team, yep.
That's a good way of approaching the story, actually.
It's Gaunt. I'm trying to think. I'm going to look up who is in the squad, actually. The Jurion 12, they're called.
The squad or the...
The squad is unofficially called the Jurion 12.
Oh, I see. Okay. I assume that's the planet.
Jurion 12 or simply the Jurion mission team was the kill team led by Gaunt on Jurion to locate and assassinate Lord General Notchestrum, who was held captive by the forces of chaos. All 12 survived, although one has since died and one is unaccounted for. Okay, that was a bit of a spoiler, but whatever. So
moving on.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's in it. Gaunt, Ron, McCall, Varl, Tonagub Crid, McVenner, Bonin, Beltalion, who's like Gaunt's adjutant, basically, after Marlowe leaves.
Beltanen is his name.
Yeah, Larkin, Broston, Fagor, and Anna Kurth. Okay, Anna Kurth is someone I have to talk about. So she's like a doctor lady that they met on Acropolis. Yeah. Gaunt has a thing for her, and she kind of has a thing for him, but it doesn't ever go anywhere.
That's straight out of Sharp as well.
Yes. So that's an interesting little side thing. It comes up. Right. So yeah, all these badass... It's basically just the most badass guys they could pick out of the regiment to go on this mission.
Is this the Call of Duty book?
Yeah, it's the Call of Duty squad.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, no, I really like this book. But what's great about this book is they're on a chaos planet that's being slowly corrupted by chaos. So you get loads of lovely details about how the wildlife is changing, how, the people are slowly losing their will to live and all that shit and resist. Because there is a resistance movement, which is doing its best to hold on, but they are just slowly getting whittled away, unfortunately.
I see. They're all Warhammer fans, and G-Dubs is changing the TOS.
Dirty Dozen was about sending prisoner on suicide missions. They were trained to be special forces. Yeah, it's kind of... If you think of Dirty Dozen, Dirty Dozen's kind of more like the Last Chancers, I guess, is probably a more apt comparison. But it's a similar idea, spec ops, send them on a mission to do some badass shit. Yeah. But what's great about this book is you see things from the Chaos perspective as well, which very few of the books do. Because the guy they're sent to assassinate is a general who did some bad shit in the third book, Necropolis, and Gaunt sent him to prison, basically. Instead of executing him. Yeah. And his prison ship got hijacked by Chaos, and they captured him and interrogated him, and he's like, I'll give you the information I have, because fuck the Imperium. And they discover that the Psychers have placed like a weird block on his brain, so he can't divulge certain information. So they keep having Chaos Psychers probe into his mind to sort of unlock the shackles on his brain and stuff. So there's a lot of chapters from his POV of how he's finding captivity and how his mind is processing everything that's going on and stuff. And that's really awesome. Like, those are some of the best bits of the book. Because you also see it from the enemy's perspective, and there are like a couple of enemy characters that show up to talk to him and give their perspective, including a guy called Mabon, who's like a former guard guy who joined the Blood Pact Then he left the Blood Pack and joined the Sons of Sek, which are like a new Chaos faction, and they're introduced in
They
this
got
book.
a book as well recently, didn't they?
Yes. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in this book. You know, Chaos Corruption, character drama, really good action.
Mm-hmm.
Glow says being on a terraforming planet by demons would suck. Yeah, the thing is, it's kind of an Insidious thing where the planet is just slowly being, the ecosystem is just kind of very slowly being altered in a creepy
Being
way, and
corrupted.
it's really well told, like the way they do it. They also bring in like huge like warp beasts that just like swallow up water and then transport it to other planets, which is creepy. So it's like,
Yeah.
lots of nasty shit is going on. There's like, you know, Gestapo type guys that are chaos that go around, you know, being civilians and telling them to go to their homes and stuff like that. It's all super grimdark. So, yep, S tier book easily. Any thoughts you have, questions before we move on to the next one?
I have nothing. I've not read that one.
Yeah. Okay.
So
let's
how
see.
about his Lost Command?
His last command is... His last command's alright. It's mostly just a follow-on to... okay, so this is the thing I should mention. From this point on, basically all the books become a lot more about being as part of a trilogy rather than being self-contained as much. Because at this point, Dan is like, okay, Black Library aren't going to fire me, you know, they're just going to let me write what I want.
I can do what I want
Yeah,
now.
so now I can do epic trilogy-long stories now. So that's kind of what's happening here with The Lost.
Starts happening from now on. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to give his last command B tier. It's okay. It kind of mostly is just dealing with the fallout of the Jirion mission, because they come back and they're all a bit psychologically affected by this because they've been on Jirion for like 2 years, I think, a year or two.
Sounds like we need some R&R.
So they've been behind enemy lines for like 2 years, you know, trying to survive, helping the resistance out, and doing missions and shit. And it's brought... Well, people are questioning whether they're chaos corrupted or not because they're so psychologically weird now, because they're like really on edge, super... Imagine Bear Grylls was left in the jungle for a year. That's kind of what they're like. Like, they're just super edgy, kind of...
You mean without his hotel room?
Yes, without his hotel room. He's just fucking like... Every shadow he like prepares his blade ready to kill it and shit like that. Because, you know, super survival instinct stuff kind of happens.
Super Sentai.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a bunch of drama that happens in this book. There's a new battle with Chaos guys on this world that's like, I think, deserty mostly. They arrive there. A new regiment gets introduced, the Belladonians, or Belladonians. They're like guys that have been merged with the Ghosts since the mission, and they're also, I think, recon guys. I don't know much about them because the books don't really tell us much about them, which is a shame.
They just mention they exist and move on, is it?
They're kind of just there to fill in the ranks for people that have died in the previous books. And
they do the same with the Vervenhive thing.
It's basically the same with the Vervenhive thing, but it's not as good as the Vervenhive because these guys aren't as good characters mostly, and they're not given as strong a cultural identity as the Vervenhivers, so you don't really know what they're like, which is a shame. Trying to think what else happens in this book. Lud's in it. He's another commissar that gets introduced. He's like the young commissar who's like the trainee. He's pretty cool. He's got a sharp eye for detail, and he like has some good decisions. He's just very young and not sure of himself. That's kind of his character trait.
There's nothing more dangerous than a young commissar.
Yeah.
He's trying to prove himself.
He doesn't shoot people. That's the thing most of the time. He just kind of is like, oh, I don't know what to do here. Oh, no.
It's always a positive.
Yeah. Surprised the Inquisition didn't just put a bolt round in them. Well, funny you say that, Glow. The Commissariat wanted to put a bolt in them, but the Inquisition said, nah, these guys are cool.
Yeah,
like, they actually have good information.
Just kill their best guys.
Being on a demon world would mess with you.
See.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The Inquisition are kind of like, these guys must be pretty hardcore if they survived a demon world for 2 years, Chaos world for 2 years. That's kind of their logic. It's like, we should probably learn from these guys, essentially. So for once in this book, the Inquisition are kind of the rational ones in the story. So.
Well, I guess it depends on what order they are.
I
Doesn't
think
sound that hard to be a common
he's either Malice or... Actually, I don't know what order he is, actually. He could have been
They're
either.
probably Hereticus.
I think he might be Xeno, actually, weirdly enough.
Oh,
yeah.
the guys who actually are reasonable. Okay, that's probably why.
I honestly can't remember. I'd have to look up again
Yeah.
which order he was. So yeah, his last command's alright. It's a bit forgettable, but it's
weird.
decent. The bits that are in it are nice.
Alright. So how about the
let's carry on. Armor of Contempt. Armor of Contempt. It's better than his last command. There you go.
Okay.
Because it introduces Gaul's kids, and one of the significant things in this one is Gaul's son and daughter. Gaul's son is going through basic training in the Guard, and they detail that very thoroughly in some chapters, and it's actually really
is it
cool
like some
stuff.
drama with him coming to terms with it, or?
No, it's just him surviving the training, honestly.
Oh, okay. It's him.
It's just him,
an action sequence, or he's in
like
boot
his...
camp.
Normally, so the book a lot of the book is either him or it's the other Gaunt ghost characters doing stuff. Basically, after the last book, they decide that they're already going to go back to Jerion for some reason, because, the Inquisition think there's some secret there to resisting chaos corruption. There isn't, but they think there is. You'll know about it when you actually read the book, what the deal with all that is. So they launch a full invasion of it because the Inquisition tells them to. And I think his name's Dalen, Gaul's son. It goes through like basic training in the Guard on the ship. But because the invasion takes priority, they decide all the guys that are going through basic training are going to deploy with them on the planet, even though they're not proper guardsmen yet. So that's kind of fucked up. So they all just crash down with their guns and shit. Like, oh, there's artillery everywhere. Ah, where's the chopper? Ah, like, it's all just, like fucking Black Hawk Down. Every war movie you can think of where it's really chaotic on their first mission and they don't know what's going on and shit. Yeah, like that. It's just that kind of shit for the whole book.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the book, they become proper guardsmen. It's like, oh, that's sweet. The ones that survived. Because they figure, well, if you survive that, you've basically passed all the training we can give you. So it's like, that's cool. And the really cool thing is that even the sergeant, who's the drill sergeant, who's a bit of an ass to them, he even gives them a proper salute at the end and says they're proper bloody guardsmen.
Good job, lads.
Really yeah.
To the end.
Even the commissar, who is a complete asshole who has a whip and shoots one of them, he backs down from Dalen because he was gonna discipline Dalen at one point during the battle. But then he looks at him and sees that, because Dalen just stares at him and thinks, I'm going to fucking kill you if you say anything, Commissar. And Commissar just looks at him for a minute and goes, carry on. He just walks off. And I'm like, that Commissar is way smarter than most other Commissars because he knows how far he can push people. And the book even says that.
He knows when to stop.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's awesome, even though that guy's a bit of an asshole. Like, he is kind of competent. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing I like about this book. There's a bunch of other stuff with the other ghosts. They like liberate some towns, free some civilians. Unfortunately, most of them are deranged at this point. It's been so long, and they're just slaves basically, and they're basically almost brain dead, which is kind of sad. They meet with the Inquisition. There's some shenanigans. They meet with the Resistance. There's more shenanigans, and the book just kind of ends. So yeah. It's a good book, honestly. I quite liked this one. Because I've read it like twice now, and it's quite a good one. They crashed in Detroit, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah, kind of. Like, they do land in a city and just assault it, basically, early on in the book, so...
You should have ended it with a cliffhanger.
Well, this one does kind of end on a bit of a cliffhanger, actually, because they discover that this guy's alive that they thought was dead or something, but, like, no one knows it, so it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay, we come to Oni in Death.
God damn.
This is another one loads of people like.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it an A tier.
Okay.
An A+. I didn't know where to give it S tier or not, but I'd settle on A because it's very good, but there's some stuff I don't really like about it. In fact, I'll give it the A plus and just put it like there. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Usually the rule is with tier list, the
This
closest to
one-
the left is the better one.
Yeah, if it's further to the left, it's better.
Yeah.
So Oni and Death. It is pretty good because it's very self-contained and it's kind of a horror story. It's basically the regiment goes to this planet. They walk through the dusty canyons and desert of this kind of slightly spooky planet. They have to hunker down in this old fort and hold it. So imagine like haunted castle on the coast by the sea kind of thing. And that's basically the vibe of this whole book. Everyone goes into this big fortress. It's spooky. There isn't really a lot of light. Lights keep flickering because the power is inconsistent. There's a big twist with the power source at the end that I won't spoil.
Spooky.
But it's just really spooky throughout the book. The problem I have with it that kind of keeps it from an S for me is that they don't really dial up the horror enough. I think Dan could have really put in some more horror because the explanation for most of it is kind of lame, which is a shame. So yeah, like really good book, really good suspense, pretty good action scenes, good character moments, especially with Ludd, because Hark gets wounded in this book. And he's like, Ludd, you gotta be the commissar now. And he's like, yeah, but I'm young and don't know what to do. And he's like, oh, I'll kick your ass if you're a pussy and you better know what you're doing. It's like, okay. So Ludd kind of compensates a bit hard for that and kind of like does some stuff that's a bit, I don't know. But it's kind of cool, you know. The problem is, it's the last character development really get with Ludd, because he basically barely gets any screen time in any of the other books, which is a shame, so that's one thing I like about this. Beyond that, quite like this book, but it does have a few weird things where there's actually a few unexplained mysteries about it, which I'm kind of mixed on. Like, I like that they're kind of, you know, there's still a bit of a mystery after you've read it, but at the same time, it doesn't. There's one particular mystery that just doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it, and they don't really explain it at all. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird.
If you want to know what it is, you have to read it to find out. Haha.
Damn it!
Technically, yes, but there's like, again, this one particular one that just, even after you've read it, you're like, what? That, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, they
Okay.
tell you, this guy wasn't there all along. He was a figment of your imagination. I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense, because he actually did things and people saw him do things, so that's stupid. But yeah, besides that, it's a pretty good novel. Some really fucked up shit happens towards the end of it. A lot of people die in this one as well, so
Oh no!
Like characters?
a few, but it's mainly red shirts that die, honestly, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's
The
just kind
civvies
of,
die.
it's not that big of a deal, honestly, at the end of it.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I'd recommend this one. I just think it could have done with a bit more tidying up in certain ways. I think that he should have dialed up the horror more rather than the action, because there was a lot of action in it, and I think more horror would have been better, personally. But that's just me. Because it's a really cool and unique idea that he doesn't do enough with, I think, is my concern.
So speaking of red shirts, Stu, The Victory Part 1, Blood Pact.
Okay. So yeah, we're done with that arc now, those four. They're a really good arc, honestly, the Lost. Blood Pack!
Yeah, you might like this one, Will.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I've not read it, but I know what at least one of the stories in this one is about. Which is about, from the enemy's point of view,
Oh yes.
from the Chaos Regiment's point of view, which I thought was a good idea.
Yeah.
I've not read it, but I do think that's a good idea to include that.
Sound
point
kind
of
of
view,
cool
so.
to do.
Right. Blood Pack. Fun facts about Blood Pack. I have a signed copy of that by the man himself, so
Oh no.
that was
Oh, shit.
the time I met him.
Saw it
So
on eBay.
briefly. Yeah, well, not on eBay, but no.
Was that when you met him?
Yeah, that was when I met him, so that was
Yeah.
fun. Didn't really say much to him because I felt really sick during that day.
Yeah.
But I've thought,
Oh, you've
maybe
been a real fangirl about it.
No, I wasn't. I just said, yeah, I like your books. By the way, I haven't read all the Gaunt books. So that was pretty funny. And he was like, you probably should read them because, there's fill in all the gaps of the stuff you're missing because important shit happens. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So, buy him the rest of my books. It's okay.
Buy my book. By the way, you missed one, but I posted it in the Discord thread.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to include it or not, but I listed it there.
yeah.
Because apparently there's 16 books. I didn't realize.
Which is the one I missed? Oh, Sabbath War. That's a bunch of short stories. I've got that one.
Yeah,
That's not a main book. That's just
yeah.
short stuff.
They-
But yeah.
You know, your favorite author has a short story in there, as well as Rachel. What's her face? That,
Oh
you
yeah,
also
yeah,
don't
yeah,
like.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'll read that at some
We'll
point.
discuss that later.
So yeah, no.
Yeah.
Bloodpact gets an A. It's pretty good because basically after the events of the other book, they get a bunch of leave for like a year or two because they deserve a break.
Okay.
So a lot of the book is just them having downtime and dealing with
Just going on the beach in his shorts.
not even that really. Like they kind of just wander around like resting or going gambling and stuff like that. But the problem is some of them, like Ron and his boys, they start doing criminal stuff like robbing casinos and stuff like that.
Oh, I think I heard about
Yeah.
the robbery that's in that.
It's kind of weird
is
how that
pretty funny.
happens because then they get arrested by commissars and then they break out and a bunch of weird shit happens. Cause
It's just GTA 5 in the 40k setting.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The weird thing, a lot of new characters get introduced in this.
Okay.
Because this planet is like the planet Gaunt got his promotion on and stuff, so it's very significant for him. It's where the old War Master died and some other stuff happens.
Is he still a colonel?
I don't know what rank he was at that point. I think he was just a commissar and then he got promoted all the way up to colonel. So it's like, oh, okay.
Oh, colonel commissar?
Yeah, because he didn't have a officer's commission at that point. He was just a commissar, and then they gave him like an officer's commission after.
Oh, I thought he had it from the beginning. Okay.
No, he gets given colonel straight up by Slido because Slido really liked him because gay. Probably not gay, but that's just the meme.
He could
be. Anyway,
Mhm.
so yeah. Anyway, this book is all right. It's pretty good. All that stuff aside, where they do all the hanging out and dealing with civilian life, essentially. Well, garrison duty is what they're there for, basically.
Yes.
That guy Mabon I mentioned in Trader General. That guy who was an Imperial and he was Bloodpact and he was Sons of Sec.
Oh god.
He defects back to the Imperium. And wants to give them information, so he's locked up in a cell, and then a squad of hitmen from the Blood Pact come after him. So
Is it him that gives us the point of view of how the Blood Pact work?
no,
No.
kind of. He talks a bit about it, but not a lot, honestly. Just a little bit.
No, because I heard about that book. It depicts how the chaos cult works from their point of view.
Well,
which I thought was
there's
interesting.
bits with the Blood Pact hit squad that are out to kill him. There's stuff from their POV where they talk about it, not so much him himself.
From
Okay,
my
I'm trying
point
to
of view,
understand.
chaos is evil.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, they do all that, and the book is mostly just Gaunt and the people he has with him trying to protect this prisoner from getting assassinated, because not only are they trying to kill him, the Inquisition want to capture him and Gaunt.
He's a lot of people after him.
All the while he's trying to relax on the beach.
Kind of,
Yeah.
and then more
He's just trying to
bullshit.
Netflix the
There's twists with the Inquisition at the end. I don't want to spoil because that kind of spoils
Yeah.
the book.
Why
Yep.
And then the book just kind of ends with that. Like honestly, I could probably give this book I could be tempted to give this a book like a B, by giving it an A- for now, because I did really enjoy it when I first read it, and I quite liked it when I read it again, but
Yeah.
it's not the best thing ever. It's just decent, I'd say.
The only thing about it that I'm looking forward to when I actually get to read it is giving you information about how a chaos cult works from their point of view.
Yeah, it's not so much chaos
Yeah.
in general, it's more just
Yeah.
the Blood Pack
Blood
and how
Pack.
they do things. Because
Oh,
one of the
okay.
weird things about this book is they bring a Blood Pack witch with them,
Oh.
and she fucking blocks out all communication on the planet somehow, or this area of the city somehow,
Damn.
and makes it like Silent Hill where no one can make phone calls and stuff. It's really weird.
She EMPs the planet.
Yeah, and then there's a snowstorm everywhere, so it makes visibility hard. Basically, so
Oh,
the
no.
squad can do their mission without getting fucked by Imperial forces and reinforcements,
That was
essentially.
convenient that the weather went bad.
Well, she
There's-
kind of forces it to go bad with psychic bullshit, so...
There's Gaunt trying to enjoy the sun on the beach. It fucking
Mhm.
snows.
Well, it's like it's like winter when this book begins, so
Okay.
he's just going to dinners with the other commissars mainly instead of relaxing, so...
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I guess that's
Winter
how he
with-
relaxes, but he's like kind of doesn't really care that much about
It's like
it. He
a
just
country
does
estate type thing.
Country road.
it.
Alright.
So yeah, no, this book's alright. I'll give it an A. We're nearly at the end now,
Oh,
so don't worry.
Salvation's Reach.
Oh god, Salvation's Reach.
I don't know anything about this
B
one.
minus. This could
Oh,
easily be a C.
Is it really that bad?
It's
Is it
okay.
terrible?
It's actually alright. Problem is, it's kind of like Sabbat Martyr, where lots of shit happens in it and there's pacing issues.
Oh.
Because it's trying to tie up things that happened in the last book, some other stuff that happened in the trilogy before. It tries to reconnect stuff that happened in Necropolis. There's
just
loads
all
and
of these
loads
are
and
just-
loads of characters in this book, and it's hard to keep track of what the fuck's going on and who's talking and who's plotting and all this shit's going on.
So a lot of these are just kind of fixing things that happen in the
It's
early
trying to
books.
reconnect a lot of old plot
Retconning.
threads and solve them.
No, retconning is a different one.
Yeah, retconning is where you change a story that's already been written, or basically.
Established, yeah.
3 Space Marines are in this book, which is interesting. They're okay. I kind of liked them. They're a bit OP, but whatever. They're Space Marines. I kind of expected that. Because they get requested to join this mission where they're gonna raid a Sons of Sec, like space station that's hidden in an asteroid field that has all their R&D research and artifacts there, and lore and data. They requisition a spaceship, which is like a frigate. I forget its name. It's kind of a cool ship. The shipmaster's cool. The way Dan Abnett describes how the Imperial Navy works is really weird because he refers to people as artificers, and I'm like, an artificer is a guy who makes things. Like, he's not an artist. It's like why would you have
It's an
an
engineer. Yeah.
Well, it can be an engineer, yeah, but it's like the mechanical.
Like it literally means builder in Latin.
Yeah, which is weird because like it's a warship that's a frigate, and they describe certain people as
So
artificers.
you know Joseph, Jesus' dad.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
the
is
carpenter.
described as an artificer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Is he?
Like
Okay.
he was
There's
a
your
carpenter,
fun-
wasn't he? So
fun-
it's-
Fun historical fact of the day.
So
Yeah, in Latin it's artificer.
So yeah, the way they describe the Navy is kind of weird in this book, because there's like almost no Mechanicum personnel reference, which I found really bizarre, because they would really be the guys in charge of actually doing the engines and some of the maintenance on the ship, but hey ho, what can you do? Do you want to know the weirdest thing about this book, though?
Sure.
Let's see. Oh yeah, Glow says long series going to have this problem. Yeah, it's the George R. R. Martin thing again. So many characters get introduced, and then he doesn't know what to do with them at that point. So he's like, okay, I'll try and solve this. Okay, weirdest thing in this book. There's 5 commissars at the start of the book in the
Oh
regiment.
god, that's a lot.
So, okay, we've got Gaunt himself, yeah. We've got Hark. We've got Ludd. Oh no, there's 6. Okay, there's 6 commissars cross. So
Why?
so right, Lud's third. We've got the old guy that's Gaunt's friend, who's like the old flubby fat guy who's kind of like not that good of a commissar. He's kind of an interesting character, but I don't know why he's there in the regiment because
He
Gaunt.
just kind of shows up.
He's Gaunt's old buddy from the Scholar Progenium.
Oh, from back in college.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's like, "Hey, buddy, you should come with me." And I don't know why he says yes, because this guy kind of is very laid back and doesn't want to do work. He just kind of is like, "Oh, I'm part of the reserve artillery regiments. I don't really do much." It's just like, you should come with me onto the front lines, my bro. And I'm like, why? So he invites him as a commissar to oversee one of the new companies, which is like a band for some reason. They ask for a band from Belladon to join them, which is weird. Which introduces another weird feminism plot that gets resolved in another book. Anyway. So yeah, it's the fourth. The fifth is this guy who was introduced in the other book, and he was like a commissar who was in charge of intelligence investigation at the HQ on that other planet. Who's like some black or Arab guy, I'm not sure. They describe him as like dark skinned or whatever. So okay, cool. He shows up, and for some reason he's part of this regiment now, and I'm like, why? Doesn't he have a job to do back on the other planet?
There's somewhere else to be.
They just bring him along.
He's the diversity hire.
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck? And then the sixth commissar, which I kind of like, because I don't know, you'll like this, Will.
Yeah.
She's called Fraskill or something. I think she's called Luna Fraskill, so I just imagine she looks like Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter. You know, like pale white hair, that kind of, lady.
So she's just some Irish lady.
Yeah, well, not even Irish, but like full-on white hair, super pale, like ghost-looking lady, and I'm just like, that's kind of hot. I don't know. Fuck's sake. So she's like the other commissar that joins them for some reason. I'm like, why is there 6 commissars in this regiment now? It's so there isn't even a discipline problem in the Ghosts. They're all solid regiment.
They're just fucking hanging out.
They're just hanging out. Yeah, he's just
pizza.
It's like Pokemon. I've just got to get all the commissars in my regiment. One of them fucking dies near the beginning.
Catch him up.
When they leave on the ship, one of them fucking dies. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's one of them gone now. There's 5 still. So yeah, that happens. And this is where Lud just gets barely any mention or no character development. I'm like, what was the point of making Lud a character, if you were just going to bring in loads of other commissars?
Yeah.
It's just like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rest of the book is just them dealing with assassins and spooky shit on the ship. Preparing for the mission to raid the spaceport.
You need a commissar for the commissars.
Yeah. Oh god, you need a call. Yeah, it's just so stupid, this book, because it's just too much. So there's too many characters, too much going on.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I won't spoil too much on this because this is kind of cool but kind of retarded at the same time. Gaunt may or may have a kid in this book. Who gets brought onto the ship, and I'm not going to say any more than that. It's fucking weird, that whole plot.
Okay. Alright.
He also, bangs the kid's bodyguard. Don't ask why.
I'm glad you finished that.
I'm said you got a bodyguard, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the kid has a bodyguard that Gaunt decides to bang because the bodyguard looked like the lady who he banged back in Necropolis. I don't know why the bodyguard looks like her, but she does. Well, they explain it, but it's really stupid. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know why that's in the story, but it is. It's like Gauntlet hooks up with someone. I'm like, cool, okay. Anna's depressed in this book because she's like, people have died, and the old doctor is dying. I'm sad. I have tattoos of all the dead people, like many of the other ghosts on my back, and Gaunt's like, what the fuck, bitch? It's like, why are you being crazy now?
Alright.
So yeah, this story is a kind of a mess.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, it very much is. I don't want to give it a C or anything lower, but it's not. There's cool action in it, but it's just, no. There's Navy battles in this book. That's cool.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That's
nice.
I imagine
They're described as in a bit of a weird way, but I'm like, okay, I can roll this,
So Stu, while you've been talking, I've been looking at the Victory Part 2, which is the next act, I guess. And I noticed something. So
Yeah.
the two short stories that come in this omnibus book are actually the two Dan Abnett short stories from Sabbath War.
Yeah, they're included in that one as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
interesting. I
'cause this
guess
is the
it's like, in
newer
case you missed it, they're here as
Yeah.
well. But
yeah,
yeah, they're in that omnibus too, so I'm just like, okay.
yeah.
It's so you don't miss them, because they're actually really good short stories, those ones. Because they're kind of they're an epilogue for the last book that's been written, basically, those two, which is why I like
Glow in the Dark has a response to you, Stu, when you
What?
said, why is the lady Anna crazy with all the names?
We live in 40k. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she just becomes kind of a bit doomer in this book, and it's like, oh no, people have died.
Well, who wouldn't?
I must tattoo their
Go
names, just
insane.
like, because apparently this is a thing some of the people
Yeah.
do. They tattoo the names of the dead people on their like arms and back, and I'm just, and
Yeah.
Hannah
Strange
does it.
thing to do, but yeah.
Because Gaunt tells her off for it, like, why are you having people tattoo themselves in the medbay? And she's like, because we're sad. And then she shows.
Well, that's
him
not
the
helping morale, and it's literally his job.
Yeah, I know. I know. And Gaunt
Yeah.
doesn't really do anything. He's just like, oh, I guess I'll let them be sad. I don't know. Like, I'll just let them
Yeah.
do it, because if I.
Why didn't he
discipline
just
them,
like
they'll get-
arrange a comedian to come and give them a comedy show?
Well, that's kind of what the fat commissar does, but he's kind of shit at it. So
They're doing stand up.
he just makes quips and silly jokes and stuff and flirts
Oh,
with
God.
women. It's really he's like Roman from GTA 4 basically, which I quite.
I've not played that one.
He's like, hey cousin, come on, let's have
Let's
the.
go bowling.
All right.
Oh dear.
So, the War Master. Is this
The
one
War
anything?
Master. War Master's a C. It's
Oh,
not very
shit.
good. It's not bad, but it's not good either.
Okay.
Barely any action in this book. It's basically
Oh.
dealing with the fallout of the previous book, of how they get back to civilization. Oh yeah, 10 years have passed since they set off on that mission.
The fuck.
So yeah, well they've been traveling in
long
the warp.
time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I suppose the War travel.
I
Yeah.
I think that's just there so that Dan can move things on with the crusade and the story. I think that's why he put that
Yeah,
in
so
there.
the story's progressed and they can still be around.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will spoil a little bit of this book because some weird shit happens. Gaunt shows up. He meets with all the generals. They congratulate him on this epic mission he did, because apparently this mission was really important. They all need to congratulate him about it, because they like brought back artifacts from the Chaos space station and killed a bunch of stuff and blew up some stuff. All good.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we think the War Master Markov, who's like the current War Master at the start of this book's trilogy, is shit and going nuts. We want you to replace him, Gaunt. And Gaunt's like, okay. That's weird. Then Gaunt talks to some more officers, and one of the other officers is like, hey, Markov's a good guy. You should talk to him first, before you decide to try and replace him in a coup. Because the cabal of other generals have decided to start a legal process where they can all tell the High Lords of Terror that they don't like this War Master and they want to elect a new one.
Well, you know what that sounds like? It sounds like there's a couple of bolt shells with their names on it.
Yeah, well, it's weird, because apparently there's a legal process to do this, apparently.
Well, most commissars are supposed to bring legal action against you if you're a problem, unless they're in the field, in which case they can just fucking shoot
Well, no,
you.
what's bizarre is this is the generals doing it. The generals
That's what I mean, yeah.
file a case against their boss for being shit, basically, is what
Yeah.
it is.
They'd have to be the process, otherwise, they're just gonna frag him.
Yeah. So they do that, which I kind of like as a detail, because it means
Yeah.
they're sort of doing the right thing from their POV.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about that more at the end of the book, but basically the book is just the rest of the ghosts and their hangers-on chilling out on this world after a long voyage. There's been a bunch of short stories about what happened in between all this as well, which were kind of neat.
Oh, was that what these Sabbath Crusade?
No,
stories
they're
are?
different
those
short
different?
stories about after the Anarch book and set in different parts of the Crusade.
Oh, okay, I'll
they're
ignore
all
it,
by
yeah.
different authors, not Dan. So
Well, yeah, that's why I was wondering.
Mhm. So yeah, they do all this stuff on the world. They rest up, but then they get attacked, and they have to deal with that. And more drama happens with the characters. I'll talk about the feminism thing. So one of the new Belladonnan, no, she's Vervenhaven actually. She gets transferred over from in Salvation's Reach, the previous book, and she's described as really, really pretty and beautiful and all that shit. And she flirts with men a lot because that gets her, favors or whatever. And but unfortunately, rumors are that she's just banging people to get promotions, but she isn't actually doing that. But that's just what the rumors say.
So some guy decided to be a prick and start rumors. Okay.
Yeah. In this book, McCall approaches her and says, "Hey, during that attack on the ship that happened in the beginning of this book before we arrived on this planet, you were pretty good. You were really stealthy and really cool because you fought in the militia in Vervenhive." And she's like, "Oh, thanks for noticing. Most men just, look at my tits and my face and stuff." And he's just like, "Yeah, you're pretty good." So instead of being an officer, 'cause she's like a fucking captain or a major, he's like, "Why don't you join my scout squad of elite Spec Ops Call of Duty people because we're cool, and you'd be way better there because you're actually good at doing the stealth thing." And it's like, "Oh, but I'd have to abandon my officer thing." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, do you want to do that, or do you want to just be called a slut all your life, or do you want to come and do real work with the scouts and fuck all that officer shit?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a scout now." And she joins the scouts and gives up her commission and becomes a really good scout. And I'm like, that's kind of a cool story, I guess. Yeah, so that's kind of neat and fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So what else happens in this book? Gaunt meets Markov, the real War Master, has a conversation with him because he's like, "Fuck this." Because even though he's been told not to be disturbed, he's like, "Nah, fuck it. I need to do something about this political situation." He meets him, and Markov's a little bit eccentric because he's been driven mad by the kind of stress of trying to counter the enemy, because the enemy warlord, which is Sek, or Anarch Sek, who's like the big boss of the Sons of Sek, is really smart as well. So he's been trying to outmaneuver him and counter his every move and predict him and get in his head and all that, and it's been driving him a little bit nuts. And Gaunt kind of calms him down and, talks to him for a bit, and, it turns out Markov's actually a pretty cool dude. He's just been very, very distant with his generals and reclusive, because he's been hiding in the library reading, lore and documents and battle plans and shit.
He's been reading the Warhammer books.
Yeah, he's been reading lore.
Yeah.
And then he comes back out with Markov and says, "Right, cabal of generals, you all need to fuck off and listen to your boss, because he's actually a cool dude, and have faith in him." And then Gaunt's old buddy, the other general, nearly punches Gaunt, and Gaunt reverses him and throws him away, which is kind of cool. And then they all agree to listen to Markov now and forget their stupid coup thing. So yeah. Then there's a brief battle at the end and the book ends. So you can kind of see my problem with this book. Barely anything happens, and it's just bullshit.
It's just a drama.
It's just drama and bullshit. And it mostly is just filler for the next book. It's context for the next book, essentially. It's basically part one.
It's just setting it up. Okay.
Yeah, it's setting up Anarch, essentially. It's part one to Anarch.
Alright.
So
we got a big build up to this. Is it any good?
No. Well, the thing is, I said I would give this book higher because of that, but at the same time, I have to judge it as a standalone book, and it's.
Oh, I mean Anarch, the next book. Is it any good? Because there's
I'll get into Anarch in a sec, but
okay.
I was just saying War Master.
Yeah.
I would give it higher if I would include it alongside Anarch, but I can't because it's its own book and it's being sold as its own book. So
it's a separate one. Yeah.
It doesn't work as a standalone novel very well.
Anarch. I guess a lot of them work better as omnibuses because they're, they all follow each other. Yeah.
Okay, Anarch is A tier, maybe S tier, actually. I don't know. One of the
Why?
two. It's very good. It resolves loads of plot threads from way back in Necropolis. It resolves all the bullshit from Salvation's Reach, Blood Pack, and the previous novel.
Oh, so it ties everything together.
It ties everything in pretty nicely.
Is this the final one?
Really awesome action sequences in this book. Some cool character moments. Some really sad shit happens. Really badass action happens.
Anyone die?
Yes, people do die in this book. Chaos gets their fucking ass kicked in this book, which is really cool.
Well, it's chaos.
Yep. And the book ends with a nice parade and a speech by Gaunt. And this is the last book. You know what? Let's give it S tier. There you go. Just for that. There you go. Because it's looking a bit sparse up there.
I'm just going to grab it 1 second. It's in the other room.
It's an A+, but I could give it S if I was feeling generous. I'll just leave it up there. Yeah. Okay, while Cross is away, I'm going to mention the fact that the Gaunt's Ghost books, you know how I said they came out a year after each other?
Yeah.
Well, around Blood Pack, it came out in 2009. Salvation's Reach came out in 2011, so 2 years after.
Yeah.
Then, the War Master came out 6 years later.
Why?
Yeah. So, Cross, I'm just telling you how there's now a delay between the books being released. So, up until, like, Blood Pack and Salvation's Reach, they were all a year, between each other.
Yeah.
Salvation's Reach was 2 years. Then Salvation's Reach to War Master was 6 years gap.
Oh, yeah.
So he either got really busy or he just procrastinated and didn't...
He was working a lot with Marvel up there.
Yeah.
He's got Warhammer.
And then between War Master and Anarch was 2 years. But to be fair, they were also both quite long books, so I can kind of understand that.
I'm just curious. Looking for the end of Anarch to see if the speech is actually long or is it short. Continue.
So, I'm not sure there's much to say about Anarch. It's really good. Obviously don't read it until you've read all the other books in the series, because it really works as a conclusion to this latest kind of arc of stories. And the impression I get is that, especially if you read the short stories alongside it in the omnibuses, I get the impression, however, after reading this one and the short stories, that Dan wants to end this series. And I think he'll do one more arc and then he'll end it, which I think would be pretty good, honestly, and pretty satisfying. So, yeah. I think that's it, guys. I think we did it. Glowy says it's not a bad series with a majority above C. Yeah. I think this is one of the most influential, like, culturally, 40k novel series we have, alongside, like, probably Cyphers Kane as well, and also mostly the Horus Heresy series, because that one's massive, I think.
I'd like to do one of these with the Kane series. Because the Caiaphas Kane series.
We could do the Kane ones. I need to read the rest of them, but yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. I can give you some of the short stories that are the newer ones that aren't in print yet.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think my throat's sore, and I think that's all we really have to say, unless there's any final questions you guys have. So,
I want to know which is Will's favorite book.
Yeah.
The middle one.
The middle one? Which one?
Which one is the middle one?
The one where there's like 6 commissars.
Oh, Salvation's Reach. Yeah, you want to read that? Oh man, yeah, you should read that.
I want to know why there's 6 commissars.
What you should do, Will, is read that one out of context. It'll be funny as fuck if you
read the book without knowing what's going on.
Basically.
That would be a disaster. Like,
I'll do an audio reading of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I do like how it's some of the Gaunt's Ghost books. There's no audiobooks yet.
Flo says, yeah, dragging out a series learning make it worse, especially if you aren't into it. That's what I think as well. I think he's got a lot on his plate, and I think he should just end it now and then work on other projects and stuff and go, this is Gaunt's Ghost. This is a pretty good series. That's how he should just kind of do it. Because there isn't really anywhere to go. Because I forgot to mention, Gaunt is now the heir to the War Master's position, which is really weird and kind of.
Oh, I thought he was the War Master.
He's not quite the War Master. He's like the second to the War Master at this point at the end of the books.
Oh, okay.
He's like the Lord Executor. So he gets his own stormtroopers that guard him, which is really funny. Because he doesn't like them following him around, but eventually he just kind of accepts. He's like, fine.
Oh, he's like Prince Philip, who's trying to escape.
Yeah. He's trying to get away from them, and like I really like the lead guy because he's like, sir, I can't, like I have my orders, sir. I'm here to protect you. And he's like, oh, can you fuck off though? No, sir, I can't fuck off. He's just like, no, this is my job. I'm sticking with you. But the cool thing is he mentions that they do not like say anything. So when he has private conversations with his old buddies in the regiment, they don't gossip or anything. I'm like, that's cool. They're good boys.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like Glow said, this is I think this is probably one of the best, if not the best, 40k book series, because just look at the rankings. It's really consistently above C. Like, there's 2 books I really didn't like. Some they're like a couple, but the rest are all above average. So I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty good list. Okay, well, any final thoughts from you guys? Because I think we'll probably close this here. So
I would like to play out the final of the ending of this tier list, Stu.
Yeah.
With the rendition of Into the Skis and Far Away.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Oh,
shit. Says he's already a peak if he's second to the War Master. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's nowhere for him and the regiment to go, because the thing about this series is it's like Sharp, where things are sad and people die, but as the books go on, the regiment gets more and more famous and prestigious, so things do get better as they go along. Like, at this point, they are like the Chad Uber Elite Honor Guard regiment to almost the War Master at this point. I'm like, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
Like, they'll just get their own planet at this point to settle on now that Tanith's heated, so maybe they'll get their Irish knockoff planet.
Maybe they get to retire and go to a beach.
Maybe they go to Wales.
Why would you torture them like that?
Finn from Xeno Edifos are based off Tanith.
Yeah.
They get to go back home on planet Earth.
Edifos has a bit of Cadia mixed in as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly, it's a bit of both.
Any final thoughts before we end it for Friday night?
Nope.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for... Okay, hold on, Glow's here. You would need to do a full... to do another few stories. Yeah, you'd have to fall out of favor to really build him back up at that point. But I think Dan is just kind of tired of the books at this point, really. So yeah. Thank you very much, lovely people, for sticking with us, and hope you had some fun with this somewhat incoherent tier list ramble of the books. We'll probably do a full breakdown. I can't say when we'll do it, but it'll be like, we'll get us and some boys together and maybe like do a book club. Like, I think that could be really fun if we can get an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
Go through each book individually, because you'll see what I mean about all the dumb stuff that I omitted, like 6 commissars in this novel and all that stuff. So hope you all had fun, and we'll see you all again soon. Have a good